Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert
and Ryan.
And today we will be journeying into mystery as we talk about episode 5 of Loki.
Journey into mystery.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first impressions, brother.
Well, I would say this is probably my least favorite episode of the 5 episodes thus far, but like, not to say it's bad, it's just like not my favorite.
You know, that's funny because I thought this episode was sick, so I thought it was cool.
There's cool stuff about it. I'm just saying it's my least favorite.
Yeah, well, that's fair, I guess. You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
I think I think the crux of it is that I'm a lot less interested in these other Loki variants, and like they're just like kind of like they're cool or whatever, but I don't really care about them, and I feel like not a lot happens this episode.
I don't know. I feel like I don't agree with that. I feel like things definitely do happen.
I feel like the episode in a way could be summed up like there's a lot of like character stuff happening, but it's pretty much all right. So Loki went into the void. Sylvie joins Loki in the void.
All right, I guess we're doing the recap now.
No, I'm just doing a quick. I'm doing a quick one. Sylvie joins Loki in the void. Sylvie allows Mobius to go back to the TVA, and then Loki and Sylvie enchant Eliath and are going to move on. Like in broad strokes, that's all that really happens. I don't know how these Loki variants are going to play in going forward in the next episode. I don't know what Renslayer is going to find out, but like it just feels to me like not a ton happened, and they like introduce these other Loki characters, and they give you 3 of them, and then they just sort of ditch one of them halfway through the episode, or they give you 4 of them, I guess, and they ditch one of them like halfway through the episode. And of the other 3, only one of them has somewhat of a developed backstory, but the way that they make it easier for that backstory to be developed is it's literally just Loki, but he kept living his life alone for many years, which really isn't that interesting as a character, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting to have him because
I think he's I think the actor did a good job as him, but like whereas like all the other variant Lokis are like different in like some like clear way. This Loki's just like, if our Loki did one thing different, and I get that's a cool concept, but the one thing he did different was live like, I don't even know how long enough for Tom Hiddleston to age into the other actor, which is probably like, I don't know, because he's like, they live like centuries or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, so he must have been on this planet alone for like centuries upon centuries to get to that age, and like that's like when he's telling the story, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but like when you really think about it, it's like, okay, so he just sat on this planet for centuries and centuries, but everything else about him, his entire life story, is virtually the same as our Loki. He was just alone for a while.
Well, I have some stuff I'd like to comment on that. But let's do the recap so we can talk about it more at the end, once we've gone through everything.
Yeah.
So this episode starts where the last one left off, right?
Loki's in the void. I think it starts on the Loki side. It may start on the TVA Sylvie side.
Yeah, Loki is found by variants of himself, and they help him escape Eliath, a giant matter-consuming cloud of
monster
battery, not goodness. So they escape from him and help him journey to their hideout. While at the same time,
we see Sylvie basically interrogating Renslayer to get information on who is the TVA, where they, who really created the TVA,
Who's number two?
where are they hiding, and they sort of come to the realization that they may be hiding somewhere past the void where all of the prune things get sent, and they start to like discuss like a plan to like how to get there. And Renslayer says, oh, or actually Miss Minutes brings up, oh, what about the time travel vehicle? He's like, yeah, we can use that. And Sylvie's like, all right, pull up the file, let me see it. And Miss Minutes is like, oh, I'm looking for it. And then it turns out that Miss Minutes is just stalling for the TVA reinforcements to show up. And Sylvie caught on to it and is able to like go hide herself with Ravana's tempad and with a pruning stick. And when but she's pretty much cornered in this like little room in like one of the interrogation rooms. And instead of having them like apprehend her or whatever, she chooses to self prune because, as she knows that the void is where she needs to go, and she has a tempad, so theoretically she can use that to get back. And it's proved later that all you had to do was take a tempad there and you're golden.
Yeah. One small like random little criticism is that this little interrogation just starts in that like, it's like the judge room or whatever, the court. It's like and I don't understand why it starts there. I don't see the purpose in Sylvie having walked her down there. Like, let's leave this room where nobody's going to show up except through that one elevator door, kind of thing. And I just don't like, we didn't see that. They just started in that room, right? I mean, from what I remember.
Yeah.
They start in that room, and I just don't see why Sylvie would have walked her down there. Why don't you just interrogate her right where you are? Other than putting them in a position where those guards couldn't show up, kind of. So I feel like that was like a...
Here's my other question.
Choice by the directors to just be like, well, let's just start her in the room. And
yeah, so here's another thing. So Sylvie had a Renslayer down in the Timekeeper's like chamber, and that's also where a passed out Hunter B-15 was.
Yeah.
And so Sylvie just left Hunter B-15 passed out, like didn't try to like arouse her or whatever, just to leave her to be captured and taken prisoner.
Yeah. It doesn't actually really make sense. I don't know why. Like, that's actually like, I don't like that little part, like that, how they just kind of skipped over and did that for the sake of like, well, they just did. It just is like this,
Yeah.
I don't really like that inconsistency in shows sometimes. Like, we can always have the suspension of disbelief and just to take it, we can take the assumption there, but that is literally a thing that stuck out of my head of like, why are they like, when I initially saw it, I was like, why are they in this room now? Like, why did they come here? There's no reason to be in this room. I don't know why she left the Timekeeper area thing. Like, it just didn't make because if you consider, I don't know how far this room that they're in is. Like, maybe it's just around the corner, but like around the corner is the chance for other guards to like have shown up and helped Renslayer. So
yeah,
you just did that to expose yourself for no reason. I mean, really, just to put her in a room where she could hide behind something. And for that, again, the directors just did it because they needed to do it. There's no reason. So
yeah,
don't really like that, but whatever. We'll just move on. I wanted to point out that I had a little issue with that. But yeah, so there's like a jumping back and forth between what we already described. So obviously, Loki and them are traveling, and Renslayer, and these are kind of happening back and forth.
And while we're getting that stuff, we see the Lokis, the variant of Lokis bring our Loki to their sort of little hideout, and we get some like talking between them, like some banter back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Boastful Loki saying, "That's when I got all 6 Infinity Stones," and they're just like, "No,
no, you just didn't do that." But we also get a couple snippets, like one that the kid Loki, his his Nexus event was that he killed Thor, which is why even though he's a kid, like why the other ones actually like respect him, because
why he wears the crown.
Yeah. So and we get like a little bit about classic Loki, which is that he's just a Loki that used an illusion instead of a dagger when Thanos came and survived and just hid away for many years.
Yeah.
So we get all that and a little just, like kind of back and forth between all the Lokis and including our Loki saying like, all right, we have to defeat Goliath and get past him and do this and that. Like we need to do something about it. Go back to the TVA and take them down. And the other Lokis are like, like there's no way you're going to do that.
You can't fight Goliath.
Yeah. Go do it on your own. And he goes to do it when he's confronted by another literal dozen Lokis.
Led by President Loki.
Yeah. Led by President Loki. Cut back. Sylvie, to get out, prunes herself, and now she's in the void as well. And Goliath is basically bearing down to consume her, but
until she's rescued
by Mobius, who called it. Really was hoping that Mobius would be back.
Yeah,
and I didn't see any reason he wouldn't. Like he wasn't. He wasn't killed, so he was sent to the same place Loki was.
Driving a pizza car.
And he grabs Sylvie and basically rescues her and gets her away from Goliath in timely fashion. So, I want to say, that seeing this, of course, maybe there's no way to get back from the void, but like it just seems like irresponsible of the TVA's like whole system of getting rid of these variants is to send them just to the end of time, where it's like, well, they'll never be able to come back from this. Yeah, but like, what about like, okay, here's a scenario, right? They go and they, they claim time stones and things like that, or infinity stones. What if somehow they just happen to prune an infinity stone nearby and it gets sent to the void? And someone is able to find that infinity stone. And now they reverse time and go back or do something. Reverse time, or they teleport out, or they change reality. Like, I think sending things to the void at the end of time for a big monster, cloud thing to eventually at some point consume it is just not even a good idea.
A cloud thing that we've seen, every person that we've seen go back there is able to get away from Goliath.
Yeah, they just literally get away from it. And apparently can just hide underground. Like he doesn't consume anything underground. Things don't even get fully consumed, apparently. Like things just look wrecked. They don't look like totally annihilated.
And it's really questionable because like the sheer amount of stuff they're pruning, there should be a lot there, but it's like just Lokis pretty much.
Yeah.
Which seems like, but like the second the Lokis get together, they're like killing each other. So like, why are the Lokis still around if they're like constantly infighting?
Yeah. Like this whole like, I'm going to say this right here that like, I like some of the stuff that happens in this episode, but like, this is an episode which is kind of answering some questions and stuff. And honestly, these answers just make me ask more questions. Like they're not really that particularly like satisfying of answer. Like, yeah, just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like they're just saying like, oh, well, just take what we tell you. Right. It just is because it is.
Yeah.
And that's lazy, like story writing, really.
Yeah. I almost wish there was less explanation at this point. Or maybe if this world just looked a little more like creative rather than it's just a lot of like open fields with like occasional like wreck cities, which like the wreck cities are still like have like big buildings. Like Goliath hasn't gotten to the stuff yet, apparently.
Yeah. Or again, like other questions I'd say, right? Like it just consumes matter. So any matter, right? But why is it not consume some matter but does consume others?
Why doesn't it consume the land?
Yeah, why is it consume?
Why is there still green hills?
That is why is there green hills? Why are there things that are grown over with grass? Why is it that he passes through some stuff and it doesn't all die? Like, at the end, he eats classic Loki, but his helmet's left behind. What he consumes matter, but he just decided not to eat the helmet? He consumes non-organic material. We see that, but he just sometimes doesn't consume all of it. It doesn't actually make any sense, really. Like this should be like a barren wasteland, like desert looking area, not like a overgrown verdant, like it looks like, some like an apocalypse happened here. And then like stuff just like kept growing. I just don't. Yeah. A lot of unanswered sort of questions where the directors and writers were kind of just like, well, we'll just assume they don't ask any questions. And again, that annoys me a little bit.
Yeah. And like a lot of the TVA stuff up to this point, there's like details about what the TVA does with the timelines where I'm like, if you start thinking about it, like on a causery thought, it's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you think enough about it, it's like, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? And you just sort of give into it because it's like set up to the show. So you just kind of vibe with it. At this point in the show, we're looking for more like concrete answers. So when we see stuff that's again like just sort of like, well, it works this way because it works this way, it feels a little more
It,
okay.
it's just lazy. I understand that like doing multiversal time traveling kind of stuff, that's a really complicated thing to write for. But if you have your general rules like laid out, one, you need to do the work. Then you need to like make sure that everything you do is tight. Like don't make it bad. Don't allow it to not be like where there's questions like this.
And to be clear, I don't even think that this is bad. It's just like not up to the standard of the show up to this point.
Yeah, I just think again, like this episode for a person, and it's not to say like everybody watches it like this, but there are some people, including myself and my brother here, that when we watch things, like we want to believe. It's not like I'm sitting here like trying to pick apart every episode, but if there's things that are too like, again, if they beckon a question like this, then it takes me out of the moment. It makes me less like involved in what's happening because I'm wondering why things are like this, even if it's just for a small moment. And again, that's not good storytelling.
And so like a lot of this stuff, my concerns with the episode, I sort of had to like in a way like think on and like come to later. But you also like can like just get like a gut feeling when something's off. Because I remember watching this episode and I actually came off the high of seeing Black Widow, and then I came home and watched the episode. And so I was like in a good mood, like really receptive to enjoy something. And I watched the episode and I was like, oh, that was good. That was cool. Like when like the prior week's episode of watching Mobius get pruned and watching Loki get pruned, I remember like physically reacting to stuff like, oh my God, that's so what? Yeah. And then this episode gave me literally nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like even like when Sylvie self-pruned herself, I was like, yeah, that was gonna happen because that's what they set up to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, yeah, I mean, I guess this is just what she would do. Like the pruning sticks don't kill you; they just send you to the end of time. That's where she needs to go. So it's not even really that. It's not a big deal anymore. We know that it doesn't kill you. It's not impactful. It was really cool and impactful when we thought it killed them, and now it's just like, okay, cool. She just uses it as a teleporter.
And I guess Mobius had to be pruned the second he knew what was up, and Hunter B20 had to be killed. Like, was she actually killed or was she pruned when she knew what was up? But Hunter B15 put in a cell.
Yeah, put her in a cell. Whatever. Yeah, inconsistencies, questions, kind of like meh. Like those are some points that make the episode. Again, I still thought there were some good points of the episode, but those are things that made me be like meh. But yeah, we have Loki, the encounter of President Loki, led by other dozen Lokis, and apparently boastful Loki.
Led them there, ratted them out of their location.
Yeah, which again, I don't even understand like why they aren't all just banding together. I get that they're all deceptive and they're Lokis and they would betray each other and things like that. But it's like, President Loki, you already have like a dozen of them following you. Like, is it because they won't follow you or something? Whatever. Nonetheless, they're like, haha, we found your secret hideout. We're gonna take it. Alligator Loki bites his hand off. They all start fighting. Classic Loki gets them out, which Classic Loki demonstrates that he can literally make portals.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying later in the episode when he allows them, actually this is explainable because he just used an immense amount of his power. I can see that a portal probably takes a lot of power to do, and he couldn't do it. And he maybe just accepted his fate there. You know, he was like, glorious purpose. This was my purpose here to do that thing. And so he let himself die.
I concur.
Yeah. But portals, man, like that's, you have a teleporter portal. That's like a pretty excellent ability. And hopefully Loki figures that one out eventually. Like you have a mini space.
He figures out enchanting in this episode. So
yeah.
Like he like he says later on, maybe he's more powerful than he knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think my favorite like moment in the episode is Alligator Loki biting off President Loki's hand, and just like the scream that President Loki gives.
Yeah, that was pretty amusing.
Yeah.
So they escape. We have Sylvie and Mobius like journeying along. They basically
they're all basically at this point they're all heading towards Alioth, with Loki wanting to try and kill Alioth, Sylvie wanting to. At this point, we don't know to enchant, but once they meet up with Loki, it's revealed that she got like a little like touch of Alioth, and she thinks that she can enchant him. And it's like, okay, yeah. Which honestly, when that was established, I was like, this makes more sense than killing it.
Definitely, but
okay, like I honestly accepted that.
I felt very much the same in conjunction with these other like, okay, we'll just accept these things. I was more ready to accept that, even though it did make me think, right, of course, the giant cloud monster can be enchanted. Okay, cool. Glad to know that. Yeah, that's just how that's going to be. But I was more willing to accept that than the other things, because this was more like, okay, again, it's got a mind, it can be enchanted. It is a little like, oh yeah, this is the secret. You have to enchant it, and of course we have an enchanter here.
Yeah. Yeah, what are the odds that the one person that can do this is the one person that needs to do it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so basically they go to face off with the Goliath and enchant it. They're gonna like do a distraction while Sylvie does it and this and that. We do get a hop back though to Hunter B-15 and Renslayer. Renslayer is confronting her and asking her questions. I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but
it's basically like, what does Sylvie know? What does Sylvie want? And Hunter B-15's like, Sylvie wants to kill the whoever created the TVA. And she's going to do it because that bitch got conviction, because she does. She has conviction. She's going to get it done. And Renslayer basically kind of accepts that this is true and realizes that if she wants to protect the creators of the TVA, which maybe she knows who they are, who he is, who they is, maybe she needs more information on where they are, who they are. And so we get her asking Miss Minutes for all the files on the creation of the TVA. And that's it for the episode. We get the lead into that, but none of the information yet.
Yeah, well, and then we get, the face off with Goliath, where Sylvie starts trying to enchant it, and Loki's just using a distraction.
You skipped over them sending Mobius away.
Oh yeah,
Mobius and Loki getting a friendship hug.
Yeah, friendship hug.
And Mobius saying, "You're my favorite."
Yeah.
To Sylvie.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, I think Sylvie's my favorite too.
She is definitely not my favorite. I certainly like our Loki more than her.
It goes Sylvie, Alligator Loki, Loki. I don't know. That's it.
Yeah. I liked President Loki for a second. Then he got his hand bitten off. So, and he became Pirate Loki.
That's the spinoff. Next season of Loki following Pirate Loki.
But yeah, so they have their battle, and we basically get, at first Kid Loki, Classic Loki, and Alligator Loki were going to leave, and they were just going to go back to doing their thing. Yeah. But Classic Loki comes back and erects this massive illusion of Asgard, like literally it creates an entire Asgard to distract Goliath, and it's just putting on the show long enough for Loki and Sylvie to both fully enchant Goliath and reveal the way to the thing beyond the void, which is like some kind of like little house or
castle structure.
Yeah.
Keep.
Classic Loki is devoured in the process. Yeah. And yeah, that is the end of the episode. But
no after credits.
Yes. Yep. No post-credit scene. But so we have getting into the talking points. I want to go back to this. Like,
can I also just mention real quick that this episode's the same length as other episodes, but we managed to recap it faster than every other episode by like a sizable chunk.
You are correct about that. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too. I was like, wow, we really got that through that pretty quick. So maybe you were right. Maybe it doesn't seem like there was very much that happened here. But that's because, a lot of it was kind of just talking, and we were skipping over, like, we didn't go fully into those conversations necessarily.
One conversation that I did like was the one between where Mobius and Classic Loki were given a chance. Kid Loki's there too, and they're given a chance to talk. And there's also the discussion about Alligator Loki on like, well, maybe he's just lying, but then that makes him more likely to be a Loki. So
yeah,
it's hard to say.
Yeah. So one thing I think Classic Loki is actually like he gets a decent amount of actual talking and screen time here, and I think he is like a really important piece of this episode. And it's really that. So this Loki is our Loki, except he just continued living, right? He used illusion to escape Thanos as opposed to trying to attack him. which I would say, hey, he basically makes a point like that. Our strongest thing is illusions, not daggers.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. I mean, I think it's like Loki tries to. Loki is supposed to be a trickster god, and I think classic Loki stayed true to what he, being a trickster god was, which is to survive, to do a trick and not try to attack.
Yeah.
And he survived all these years, and I think we get an insight into we get an insight and a confirmation into what Loki's been sort of showing us through, like our Loki has been showing us throughout the series, which is that like inside he doesn't necessarily like want to rule. He just wants to be like loved and accepted and like, recognized. And we see that with classic Loki, where he says like, I literally just lived on this planet by myself for so many years. And eventually I just got like, I missed my brother. I wanted to go back. I wanted to see if anybody missed me and things like that.
Yeah.
And here's what really shows it to me is that him making Asgard at the end, I believe that like wherever he went, he made Asgard, and he basically ruled over an Asgard that wasn't real. Because he said he can make illusions so good that Thanos thought it was real. Like he made something that apparently had, sight, smell, feeling, and illusion so good that Thanos literally thought that it was a real Loki that he killed.
Yeah.
And so I would assume that even on a mass scale, he can make illusions so good that even he would just choose to believe it, right? He can make the people appear. He can make the entire city appear as long as something wasn't literally trying to destroy it. And so I like to think that Loki went on this planet and lived there by himself and created this whole illusion. Like he basically like, I came here and I did rule Asgard. Asgard's gone. It was literally destroyed in Ragnarok, and everybody thinks I'm dead, but I'm here ruling. And he spent all this time like in this pretend world, but knew that it was all hollow, because it was just like we know that Loki found love in himself by loving Sylvie, or finding her, that this Loki only was giving love to himself, and that he really wished that somebody else that could find it in another person.
So when classic Loki's telling his reason why he went off to be alone, he mentions that it's because he felt like everything he did, all the decisions he made, everywhere he went, left like pain and like bad in his wake, and he just wanted to stop being a part of that. And that's another thing to like look at yourself and like feel like you do nothing right and that you need to be alone for the sake of others. That's not a selfish act. Like the selfish act would be for Loki to like immediately come back to like join up with his brother and like all the others, but that's not what he chose to do.
Yeah, he chose to basically be alone for what we like have to determine is hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And just satisfy himself. And so I think with that we get like an insight, because we get an insight into Loki. Like this is the Loki with age and wisdom. This is
also not the Loki we've been following, because this is the Loki that experienced the movies up through the beginning of Infinity War. This is the Loki that had the experience of Thor Ragnarok with his brother, who like he still stole the Tesseract, which I guess the Tesseract still goes back to Thanos at this point, but he's able to get off on his own.
Yeah, like maybe in the illusion he gives him the Tesseract because he doesn't want
wants to get away.
Yeah, because otherwise he'll just be hunted down, right? Yeah. Like he probably knows, like I can't, avoid giving him the Tesseract right now. I just need to do it.
So it's still like sneaky Loki that stole the Tesseract in the first place, but it's a Loki enough that he like does love his brother and he does love his people and all that jazz, but he then went to off be alone. So when I was criticizing classic Loki as being just Loki with more time added to it, it's a bit unfair. He is like an interesting character for them to give us this one episode of.
Yeah, I think, them giving it to us this one episode just gives us a lot of good insight into our Loki, basically as like what
the kind of man he could be, the kind of self-sacrificing person that classic Loki ends up being.
And just to add to, I mean, Sylvie says, he's like, well, we're the same, so you have the same power I do. We can see here, it's demonstrated how powerful he could be. If he wanted, he could make an illusion of an entire city, or make portals to transport through, or potentially make an illusion so strong that, I mean, it could fool somebody else into thinking that they killed him, which I think might be him saying that, it might be potentially like a foreshadow or like a hint that we see a confirmation that Loki has powers that he doesn't realize he has. And he said it himself. I think we're stronger than we know that we are. And I suspect that with those like little tidbits that in the last episode, we're going to get some like really excellent Loki illusion switcheroo deception, like where he's going to use a huge, amazing deception to deceive like Renslayer or whoever the person is that controls the TVA.
I think it's going to be maybe more not big illusion, maybe more small but really real illusion, like the one that saved classic Loki.
Yeah, precisely. Like, I think he's going to use some kind of like strong. He's going to really apply himself in his illusion magic. Recognize that there's again, classic Loki. I think gave a lesson there, which was that like our illusion is our best thing, not the daggers, not trying to kill, but like our trickery. That is our best power. And so I think they're going to use that in the very end. He's going to have learned something from the wisdom of his older self.
Another note of something that's I think is first said by classic Loki in the episode is that Loki, as far as these variant Lokis are concerned, is truly the god of outcasts. And I think that as a descriptor of who Loki is feels more accurate than any other summary of who he is thus far, because Loki really does just feel like a true outcast character. Like every Loki we've seen is some sort of outcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've gotten at least a portrayal of here in the Loki series. I don't think that's ever he says that here, but I don't think we ever got that in like any movie particularly. No, I think he always lived up to the idea of a mischief, that he was causing problems. And
what's more is I feel like the people like I've always ever since Avengers, there have been people, I guess even ever since the first Thor, there have been people who were like big Loki fans. And maybe it's just because people like Tom Hiddleston, but I think it has something more to do with the character itself. And it really, like, the people that I've seen who have been into Tom Hiddleston are people who may potentially have felt outcasted in their life. And to have that sort of like articulated as he is the god of outcasts, the people who identify with Loki are themselves outcasts.
Nice job, Disney. Definitely saw your demographics and made sure to reach out to them real quick. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. And like, I self-identifying as an outcast is one thing, and there's lots of things about Loki that makes him like an othered type person, but yeah, he's still this like really charming, like charismatic, fun to see on TV person who is in like a bunch of really like great movies. He's in Avengers, he's in Thor Ragnarok, he's in this Loki series, and in all of them. And even the bad movies he's in, he's the best part of those movies. He's the best part of the first two Thor movies.
Yeah. I don't know if he's the best part of those movies. I think Thor might be a pretty key feature in them, but I think in the Dark World, he is definitely like a really excellent feature of Dark World. But a movie that's known to be one of the worst MCU movies, I think that Loki is like a standout character for sure in that movie. But yeah, I don't know if he's like the best character in the first Thor.
I think in the first Thor, well, so the first Thor has the Chris Hemsworth with like weird blonde eyebrows.
I never even thought about that until somebody pointed it out, and when I went back and watched it again, I was like, okay, can't unsee. Like,
it's just like they really went for it, and they were like, nope, pull back immediate, because it's just weird.
It is weird. It is a little weird. So I want to bring up a theory that I saw on it was actually on a TikTok, and I'd really love to shout the guy out but I don't, I want to actually see if it's possible for me to pull it up maybe while we're talking. But I saw a guy's theory on TikTok for what he thought was in that, in the house there.
Yeah.
And so I just want to shout it out because I thought it was interesting. And it's pretty much gone against what I thought that's Kang the Conqueror. And the guy even said in the episode, he's like, lots of people think it's going to be Kang, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to subvert it.
Yeah. Cause like it's one of those things where like either Disney's like, yeah, you guys already knew it, or they're gonna do the thing that they keep on doing and like just subvert your expectations.
Yeah. So um, uh, this guy's theory, and it seems so good, was that that place at past the void is called the House of Ideas. And what exists in the House of Ideas normally is the entity called the One Above All, which in the Marvel comic universe, the One Above All is basically literally like Stan Lee. It's essentially literally it's an entity that is the literal writer of the entire universe.
It's the single most powerful entity in
Yeah.
Marvel. Like, because I think I like watched like a Watch Mojo list or something once where it was like the top 10 most powerful, and like when you like start to get to like the top 5, it's literally just like, oh, this dude can like eat a universe and stuff, and then it's just the One Above All is the literal one, which I'll let you continue with the theory. It feels a bit early to pull out the single most powerful.
Yes, so that is who normally is there, but the other entities that exist in the House of Ideas are also these things called Then and Now, which are essentially like these collectors of all the information that's ever happened or is happening across the entire universe. And then he basically went on to say, but what I really think is there in the House of Ideas is another variant of Loki, the variant of Loki that is the god of stories. And this basically, his kind of theory went that this Loki went to like the somehow got to the ends of the earth, literally like the ends of time, and it has gone here, has been basically controlling this entire timeline to make it out to be whatever, like this timeline in which he is like, a god among all things, basically like literally the god of stories. I collect everything. I am like the master of everything here. And but he's no more powerful necessarily than Loki. He's just in this position of power.
Yeah, I fully buy. Before you said that, in my mind, I was kind of like, I wonder if it's just a variant Loki.
Exactly.
Because the Loki show, the Lokis keep popping up. Lokis are the one people that keep being able to get stuff done, like figure out the TVA, the inner workings of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. And so he basically thought that it's going to present a situation where it's literally a variant Loki at the end, and that this basically it happens in a loop. Like time is a loop here, where Loki's continue to like a Loki comes to the end of time, finds the thing that's there, and then like kills them, or either succeeds in killing them or doesn't kill them, and they just remain there where they are. And that this time, and that every time it's happened, a Loki arrives there and then takes over this new, like, I'm now the god of stories Loki that stays here at the end of time, and now I'm the ruler of everything. Yeah. Right? It's what every Loki on the surface level thinks they want. They want to be the king of everything, and this is the ultimate being the king. You literally control the TVA, which controls all the time, and it also lends to the idea that the reason they prune things and they make sure that this is a timeline where he ends up being the controller, and that's why other Lokis are so like such a danger, because they're the only things that can literally, once they get to the end of time, and this has happened before over and over again, they're the only thing that stopped that Loki from.
But it's also why these Lokis are like seem to be so naturally good at getting away from Eliath, because Eliath was potentially a creation of a Loki.
Yeah. And this time, as opposed to continuing the loop, this Loki has come with basically love in, like with Sylvie. And because of that, they're going to be able to break the loop. They're not going to continue doing the same thing of like, kill this Loki, take over, be the king of the everything multiverse. And that's like kind of like the big subversion, which I think it just actually works with this story being told for so long. It really is like, wouldn't it make sense that at the end of all of it, it is just another Loki, and that, this all exists in a loop, and this time they'll break it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And we'll know for sure next episode. So we're left off with that as the one like sort of cliffhanger, like what's going to happen there. And we also have our dear friend Mobius coming back to the TVA, but we don't see how he's received there yet. I feel like I'm more curious to see the immediate fallout of that than because I have a feeling of what the Mobius interactions is going to look like, and I think it's going to be cool. Whereas, I don't know, I'm just so worried about the final reveal of who created the TVA not being something up to the standard the show set, I'm really afraid of being disappointed now, especially because this episode felt a little lackluster compared to what came before it. I'm getting a little nervous. I really hope that they stick the landing and they find something good. I think I just have higher hopes of the Mobius side of this last episode being good. If he's not on a jet ski by the end of the episode, I am going to, I don't know,
protest, riot in the streets.
Yeah.
Invade the Capitol.
It's necessary.
Yeah. I understand that. I want to say is like, I like these Loki episodes, but there's a feeling really where it's like, I've been making myself want to like them. I think, to be honest, all these episodes have not been like hitting me the way I really want them to. I think WandaVision like hit me so much more impactfully, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, like my expectations for it were kind of high, but they still like did what I thought they would do. And this Loki series it's just not quite given me what I've been expecting.
I want to see the last episode before I make a judgment call. I'm definitely putting it above Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now. Because despite this last episode not being my favorite, the other 4 episodes before it, not a single one of them I thought was any lesser than the best Falcon and Winter Soldier episode. But pending this last episode, I'll decide whether or not Loki is, in my opinion, more successful than WandaVision. Because WandaVision, as I look back on it, it has some like flaws in it, but there's like a beauty in the flaws in a way. Like, and WandaVision, with like the exception of the tagged on stuff of building out a bigger universe, everything in WandaVision felt like it sort of like made sense and it went together in a way. Whereas Loki is starting to have like, there's just so many like little details that the details start to slip away. And if we just get past some of those like dumber details and come to some resolution, some revelation in this next episode that lives up to what's been preceding it, I think that Loki could end up being like the best of the series so far. But I'm a little more tentative in my reactions now.
Yeah, I think this show's very ambitious. Here's the thing. I think the show's really ambitious, and I think it's hitting some marks, but not everything for me. That's why, again, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't think it perfectly executes maybe the thing they were going for, but I think it just does exactly what I expected it to do. It's not being super crazy. It's just like, hey, Falcon, Winter Soldier going against these things. In the end, we have Captain America.
I feel like this Loki show is giving what it's giving what you expect on the box in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There are some surprises, of course, but like, if you look at what's come so far, does any of it feel like it didn't belong in a Loki show?
I mean, I don't know what to say. It needs to be expected in a Loki show. I expect things to be chaotic, and
looking back at what's occurred so far, does anything feel out of place?
That damn building.
He's more powerful than he lets on.
Okay, but we still haven't seen him do I can lift a building powers.
We did in that episode. Established.
Still horseshit. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to articulate what it is like about this show that's not like, it's not seeming fully right with me, but I don't want to like necessarily say like it's not bad. Of course, like it is good. Like there's a lot of like cool things to be seen here, but there's just something about it, man. There's something about it. Now, maybe if this last episode really just hits and it just like brings it all together like we're hoping for, then I won't really, maybe it'll be like, all right, maybe it all seemed a little weird, but in the end, it all just worked.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Hey, one thing before I forget is that TikToker who I got that theory from is his TikTok name is King Von Schweetz. King Von Schweetz. So if you want to go see that theory yourself, you can look him up. Got to give credit where it's due, Definitely didn't come up with that myself.
Yeah.
And
And then we go to the TikTok and it's you like in like a wig and glasses like, hey guys, it's not Robert, it's King Von Schweich.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I have really much else to say about this episode, so.
Well, are you sure? Or I guess we've covered quite a bit.
I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
Oh, let me throw some stuff around in my brain a little bit. So Renslayer, what do we think Renslayer knows?
I mean, it seems like they're making out to say that she doesn't really know anything, like that, which like kind of breaks down the Kang theory, because I thought that Renslayer would have been in cahoots with Kang, and that's kind of what we were led to believe, because Renslayer in the comics is related to Kang, like they're lovers or something like that, like, and so I thought like she would be like, I'm the front for all this, but we get the point that she was just an agent at one point. And then she just doesn't really appear to know anything about the truth in the TVA. So I think that it's just kind of a coincidence that she's there. Maybe that she does get associated with him later or at the end of the show. Like they destroy the TVA and now she's like, you ruined my life and I'm going to get back at you by, partnering with this other guy here.
All the agents working for the TVA are variants. Is Renslayer a variant? And if so, is Renslayer their real name? Are they someone else? Is this another like mislead another Ralph Boner, making you think that this is the character that you think it is, but in reality they're just not? And it's not something unfamiliar to Marvel, like telling you a character is a character and then not the Mandarin, it's just an actor. Stuff like that. So maybe this Renslayer, like when Sylvie finally gets to enchant her memories, reveals that she's actually not, her real name isn't Renslayer, and it's just a coincidence. It's just a way to like get the people doing the theories that it was Kang all along to think that it was Kang all along.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, speaking of Ralph Boner, it's funny you say that. The same guy, King Von Schweitz, had another TikTok theory where he was like, Ralph Boner actually is Quicksand, and Quicksilver, sorry, Quicksand. Yeah, that's not a character. But he pointed it out because if you go look at the timeline, there's a function on Disney Plus where it shows all the MCU things in timeline, like where they are in the timeline, and it shows that the Loki show is set in between or before WandaVision, like directly before it.
Interesting.
And so I think we all have this expectation that at the end of Loki, it's going to unravel and open up the multiverse, right? And so he basically said that is evidence that because it's literally falls before WandaVision, that the multiverse is now open and that she literally did pull X-Men, Quicksilver into their the sacred timeline. I don't know, like wherever she is in that timeline or whatever. She pulls
Wanda's
him from
timeline.
Yeah, she pulls him from where he's at, and that's why it's supposed to be.
This is Wanda's timeline, and we're just watching it.
I mean, she is a Nexus being confirmed, and so we know that she exists across all timelines as a constant. Yep. So these are all her timelines.
Yeah.
Excited for more Wanda. Excited for more Scarlet Witch. But yeah, so covered Renslayer. Hunter B-15's in a cell. Don't know what, if anything, we'll get from her. Maybe we'll see her be happy in her home or go visit herself. Who knows?
Whatever.
We'll see. We're gonna see what happens. Kid Loki still king of the void. Alligator Loki still an icon.
Just an icon living.
Yeah. But I guess you're right. Yeah. Not a lot more to say about the episode. Again, just felt like not a lot happened. And I really don't want to say that the episode was bad. It's just that I thought everything before it was so good that this episode was just kind of there. And it feels more disappointing because my expectations at the end of the last episode was that this would be the good episode because it was like
the penultimate.
Yeah. And in other series, this was the best, if not one of the best episodes in the other series. So to have the opposite occur makes me a little nervous, but also makes me more hopeful that maybe the very last episode will be better because of it.
Yeah, or they just completely missed the mark and everybody's super disappointed. So whatever.
At least we got Black Widow.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's all for me.
I guess that's all for me as well.
Yeah, well, I guess until next time, folks, this has been Robert.
And Ryan.
Have a good one.